And today I want to tell you about a story that's happening out in British Columbia. We don't always cover politics in BC, but today it's really important. And to do so, I am joined by Jasper Sunshine. Jasper goes by Mr. Sunshine Baby. He's a YouTube personality and political commentator. So, Jasper, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so tell us about this controversy. How did you end up in the middle of this huge political storm out in Victoria, BC?
Well, I was on an extended Christmas vacation down on Vancouver Island. I was just camping in my fifth wheel with my family, and it came to my attention that the British Columbia Conservative Party was having an AGM meeting, an annual general meeting in Nanaimo. So I decided to show up. Like, I didn't register. I'm not part of the British Columbia Conservative. I don't hold like a membership or nothing. I showed up, and they were able to give me a media pass. I have multiple YouTube channels in the space, and I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. So I got to meet a lot of people. I met some MLAs. I met John Rustad. I met other creators there. Some were there as delegates. Some were there as media. Like it was the first time that I ever crossed the screen into the real world. It was a very cool experience. And then it came to my attention from talking with different MLAs and talking with different people, folks that were there, that because I have this, large House of Canada YouTube channel, which is my way of trying to brainwash an entire country to stop saying it House of Commons and start saying House of Canada. I think it's working a little bit. Where I cover question period. It's literally only question period. When question period's in, I make videos and I live stream. When question period's not in, I don't post, right? And because I do that, and I've never actually attended question period in real life, it was recommended that I go watch question period at I call it the Castle, but it's more professionally known as the Legislature in Victoria. And so given the timing of everything, it made sense that after the AGM was done on a Sunday, I would go to watch question period at the Legislature on Wednesday. And so I did. And so I gave a little bit of notice that I was confirmed going, booked a hotel for a couple of nights, bought dinner and lunch for my family because we're in like a hotel room, can't cook for ourselves. And it was it was a interesting experience being in Victoria with all the safe supply and stuff like that. But focusing on what happened in the Legislature, I got a little bit of a tour around the place, and then I was invited to sit up in, or I was given like a ticket to sit up in the gallery for question period, which was cool because again, I always do it from this side of the screen. I've never done it in person. So there's no phones, there's nothing, right? You have to give all that stuff like airport security. And it's openly, known information on my YouTube channel that I was in the military for 9 years. And so I was introduced by an MLA as a patriot and a YouTuber known as MisterSunshineBaby. And question period, I'll be honest, it was very, boring because the NDP run the show. They're the sitting government, and oh my goodness, right there you go. And they're the non-answers and stuff like that. But the Conservatives had some really good zingers, and that's what I love. That's what I like to do as a hobby for a YouTube channel under House of Canada at the federal level. And there's a timer that's on the screen. It's in big yellow, almost thumbnail type of font. Starts at 30 minutes and it counts all the way down from 0. You can't see it when you watch it on TV or on the internet, but you can see it when you're there in person. And right when the clock went all the way down to 0, the Conservative asked his last question. And the NDP MP, Farnsworth, I think was his name, stood up and commented on the fact that I was sitting up in the gallery and referred to me as a far-right YouTuber with like extremist views or something of the sorts, and how it was inappropriate. He denounced me. So I was announced and then he denounced me, which is interesting. And that it was
let's pause you right there, Jasper, because we have that clip. So let's play that clip of NDP MLA Mike Farnworth. Sorry.
Does he think it's appropriate, Honourable Speaker? Does he think it's appropriate that a member of his caucus stands up in this House today and introduces someone known as Mr. Sunshine Baby, seated in the gallery? And I'll tell you what it has to do, Honourable Speaker, because yesterday the person that introduced by this caucus, Honourable Speaker, posted a video that said, the fat pig Doug Ford in Ontario is ready to cut off the power and Liberals are cheering him on. This is quite literally, by definition, an act of war. Honourable Speaker, does the Leader of the Opposition think it's appropriate for a member of his caucus to introduce somebody like that when tariffs are the greatest issue we face?
Wow. What a reaction. So how are you feeling when all of a sudden they started talking about you like that?
I was clearly talking about Doug Ford's mentality. He's a fat pig up there, right? So I'm up in the gallery and you're not allowed to give thumbs up. You're not allowed to make facial expressions. You can't do nothing. You have to be a statue. And when that happened, when he said, Mr. Sunshine Baby, I just about pissed myself. I was laughing hysterically. I gave a thumbs up. I was just so shocked that I'm sitting up in the gallery and people below me, like 10, 20 feet below me, are mentioning me on like actual government officials, right? And I almost got kicked out because the usher came up to me and said, you're not allowed to talk. Like you can't react. And I said, they're talking about me. What do you mean? Like, that's my name. Keep my name out of your mouth. We've already seen that on the global stage. And so it was just the weirdest thing. And that clip was already posted online before I even exited the castle. And I was absolutely in shock. Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around why are these people even talking about me? This is government. Like, there's more important things than talking about me. Like, I'm not newsworthy.
Well, it's sort of like the guilt by association cancel culture. Like, how dare a BC Conservative mention you? I mean, obviously you're a patriot. You served in the military. You served in uniform. But also your YouTube videos do a service because you make politics accessible to people that don't really have a background in politics. So you talk about it in like a very inviting way, and you make it entertaining, and you make it funny. You make it more colorful. So they should appreciate that because you're drawing more attention to their field. But instead they use these tactics to try to say like, oh, he once said something that I disagree with, so therefore how dare he step foot in this building, which is ridiculous, Jasper. And it continues. That's not the end of the story, because just yesterday, on Thursday, the Premier of British Columbia continued to bring it up. So we have a clip here of BC Premier David Eby saying that he doesn't understand why basically the Conservatives would invite someone who doesn't share his messaging when it comes to the terraform boycotting. It's a very, very strange line of thinking. But anyway, let's play that clip.
I cannot understand how you can sit on a panel with a YouTuber that says, I'm going to encourage everybody to buy as much American as possible to undermine the boycott of American goods. Like, what the Conservative Party is thinking right now defies explanation. How you can welcome as a patriot a YouTuber that says that cutting off Doug Ford's efforts to cut off electricity to the United States to get the attention of the president were an act of war, and that the president should revisit harm on Canadians in response, and we get everything we deserve. Like, I can't explain that. I don't understand it.
And so what's the latest? What's your takeaway from all this? How has the reaction been? And what's your takeaway from all this?
Well, there's actually a couple of steps that have happened since the Legislature and since that clip. And that's a CTV writing a hit piece on me the day of the Legislature, the evening of the Legislature. And then a few days following that, David Eby was also in a liquor store where they removed all American stuff and there's only Canadian stuff on the shelves, mentioning me as well. And then this had just happened on Thursday. And I mean, my takeaway is this is ridiculous. If you Google, is it an act of war to cut off the power to another country? Google will give you, depending if you're asking Google, Meta AI, Grok, the answer is yes, it is. Israel cutting off the power to Gaza or water to Gaza, whatever it was, that was viewed as inhumane. And so that was a big no-no. Russia cutting off the power to Europe is no, even with all the sanctions that's imposed on them. But for some reason, there's this like bubble of immunity around Doug Ford, the fat pig mentality premier in Ontario, threatening to cut off the power to America. And nobody is, unless I'm missing something, unless I live in an extremist Google search, I don't really know, because you ask Google, and yes, it can be perceived as an act of war. And ever since he had a phone call, Doug Ford had a phone call with the liaison with the White House, with Trump's administration, he's completely done a reversal on his stance. He came out the gate, guns blazing, saying, "We're going to cut off the power with a smile on my face." That's what he said. That's disgusting. That's anti-Canadian. No Canadian says that or condones that, but apparently the extreme radicals on the left do think that that's a good idea. And so I just thought, hey, let me talk about it in my colorful way that I like to do things, by referring to him as a fat pig with rabies mentality. Though, of course, I wouldn't comment on his weight. I wouldn't do that.
Well, also, Canada's still a free country, last I checked. So you are entitled to your freedom of speech and your opinion. And the premier and the NDP party don't have to agree with you. You can still have your free speech. And that's sort of the biggest problem of this whole thing. I want to talk, shift it a little bit and talk about the BC Conservative Party, because they're having their own issues over there as well. So True North wrote this piece called "The Inside Story Behind the Fracture of the BC Conservative Party." Conservative Party of BC is refuting claims of internal turmoil after 3 breakaway MLAs signal plans to form a new right-wing party. So for just a little bit of background and context, there was Dallas Brody, who is an MLA from Vancouver. She was on a podcast. She was talking about the unmarked graves hoax and rightly pointing out that 0 bodies had been discovered. And after that, she got booted out of caucus. The BC Conservatives removed her from caucus. When asked why, the leader of the party, John Rudstead, posted this video and this post on X saying the following. So he wrote, "Correct, Dallas, the number of new bodies unearthed in Kamloops is 0. However, your departure from caucus was based on your choice to go on a podcast and mock victims of abuse at residential schools. Here is the video." And then he plays a 4-second video, completely taking whatever she was saying out of context. So you can't really tell what someone's talking about with 4 seconds of video. I'll play you that 4 seconds so that you can try to judge for yourself.
This whole thing about my truth and your truth, oh, my truth.
So you could clearly just see that it's, first of all, totally taken out of context. You don't know what she's talking about. But the concept of my truth, I mean, that is like a woke left-wing idea that like the truth is different than my truth. Like each individual person is entitled to their own truth. So even if there are facts pointing to like, there's no bodies being discovered, so therefore you can't call it a genocide. But then you can like combat that by saying, well, it's my truth. I mean, I don't know the full context, but it seems to me that she was mocking the left-wing idea of having my truth, not the actual testimonies of individuals who may have suffered abuse. So from my perspective, this is just like right-wing cancel culture. Like you're not allowed to go on a podcast. You're not allowed to deviate ever so slightly from our narrative. And in this case, like you have to bend the knee to the left-wing woke mob and ideology. So I don't understand why the party's fracturing. I don't understand why the leader of the party would kick someone out over this. Maybe you can help shine some light on this. Jasper, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I am guilty of saying my truth a few weeks ago. So my bad, not in relation to, graves or anything. I forget what I was talking about, but oopsie daisy on that one.
Well, I'll forgive you for it. I mean, people do use it, but like this idea that like everyone's entitled to a different truth, it just doesn't make any sense. But anyway,
yeah, no, that I agree with. In terms of the BC Conservative Party, I mean, conservatives are great at one thing, and it's eating themselves alive. Like I think that when the conservatives or the right is bored with something, it just they start to kind of turn on each other, and you're seeing this happen, socially at the federal level with support or like the conservative supporters, and then also you're seeing this within the actual British Columbia party, and I feel like I'm stuck between two different rocks, right? Because when I attended the AGM, I got to meet a lot of the grassroots movement people, and some of the changes that were implemented to the BC Conservative Party were anti-grassroots movement people. Like the whole party is, the foundation of the party is built on the pillars of the grassroots movement individuals, and they put their blood, sweat, and tears into it, a lot of volunteers. And so I was there and I witnessed the voting of it, and I was blown away in a very bad way. And so I think that there's a lot of tug of war happening within the party, and if that 4-second clip is what Dallas got booted from the party for, I feel like maybe John was just looking for an exit strategy, and he said, you know what, I'm taking that one. That would have to be my guess, because I don't know how that singular 4 seconds could be the make or break between kicking somebody out, right? Again, it's taken out of context. As someone who's been on the receiving end of things being taken out of context, yeah, that it's used to manipulate, public opinion, and very much used against you.
Well, it's a time where conservatives really need to stick together. I mean, federally, you mentioned that there's sort of some back and forth over what the best strategy is for Pierre Poilievre. Some people are saying that he's not going hard enough, and some people don't like the way that he's kind of trying to distance himself, say, from American Republicans. And then in British Columbia, I wanted to tie this into a story that Jonathan Kay wrote about, that the BC Okanagan, so this is a part of UBC, they denied an application to a conservative campus club. So the Conservative Party wanted to have a campus club. The school just basically said no, they weren't allowed to, because it would upset progressives, basically, that having conservatives on campus would make people feel unsafe or some such nonsense. And so interestingly, Jasper, the leader of the BC Conservatives, John Runstad, posted about this, and he said this is the inevitable result of out-of-control radical leftist activism in BC's academia. No woke activist student culture should be allowed to determine which political parties students can join or associate with. And so I just thought that there was like a sense of irony here, that he is protesting about UBC being too woke and not allowing conservatives, which is true, but then he himself was kind of being woke in pushing Dallas Brody out, saying, like, how dare you say, how dare you, whatever, mock the idea of my truth. Jonathan Kay seemingly agrees with that take, because he wrote the following on X. He said, thanks for your quote tweet. Now go apologize to Dallas Brody for throwing her under the bus after she spoke the truth about Kamloops. What you and your fellow party members did to her was unconscionable. Totally agree with that, John Kay. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I can almost guarantee you that you're not going to see John Rustad retract his decision, and I don't think he's going to apologize. I feel like in politics, when you pick a path, you're just committed to it, and it's very unfortunate what happened in terms of a public apology. I think a lot of us in British Columbia would like to see that, but I think the damage has already been done, because Dallas got the boot, which is not a funny little Canadian term, actually got the boot. And then, if I'm not mistaken, a couple other MLAs also decided that they were going to go independent. And so I think you're starting to see something that was almost inevitable that was going to happen. I saw the tensions at the AGM, and now that action has already taken place, I think there's a massive fracture, and I don't know if it's going to be repairable anytime soon.
Well, that's too bad. I think that the right needs to be united. If we've learned anything over the last number of years, it was in Alberta when they had both the Wild Rose Party and the PC Party, the NDP were able to govern. As soon as they united, they've basically been the majority government there ever since. Federally, it was the same thing when there were PCs and the Alliance Party. They didn't win, and then they merged together to create the Conservative Party of Canada, and that's how they won their majority. So Conservatives have to find a way to get along, and the NDP have to be okay with someone like you, Jasper, showing up to the legislature, given that probably a lot more people watch your political coverage even than the nightly news or the legacy media. That's just the reality of the world we live in.
So it's funny that you say the NDP should be okay with someone like me, because at the federal level, Jagmeet Singh actually used me on his breakup video, I think it was September 4th, when he said that the coalition is over, right? They just resumed, or they were about to resume the House of Commons after the summer break or something of the sorts. It was like Jagmeet's most viral moment that he's ever had in his life. So at the federal level, in his video, in his actual breakup video, I forget, maybe 41, 42 seconds in, when the screen goes to black and white, you can actually see me in the bottom right corner of the video. He took my House of Canada footage. It's me looking up like this because I'm watching Question Period. So the federal NDPs are okay using me to their advantage, but the provincial BC NDP just want to use me to attack others. It's so hypocritical. It's almost comical.
Well, it is comical, and the name calling too, like this idea that somehow you're like a far right dangerous threat just because you don't fall in line with their like brainwashing when it comes to how everyone must respond to the tariffs and to Trump. And this message is for the YouTube audience. We love the YouTube audience. Everybody, thank you so much for following our content and supporting us at Juno News. I'm going to ask for one thing. Please take a second to like this video. Every time someone likes the video, it helps expand our reach. We can reach more like-minded Canadians just like yourself who care about the truth and have a bit of common sense. So like the video, leave us a comment, tell us your favorite part of the show, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you never miss an update. And if you want to watch full episodes of my show, The Candice Malcolm Show, head on over to junonews.com. We record the show live every morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and consider becoming a subscriber. Support independent news, support independent journalism. Thank you so much. Back to the episode. Okay, I want to go back to that CTV report. We missed it originally, but I want to talk about it. It's Fake News Friday. We love to talk about the fake news on Fridays. And so CTV did a hit piece on you, and even the journalist was talking about it on X. So why don't you walk us through that, Jasper?
Right. So I organically found the journalist who wrote this kind of like hit piece about me on CTV Vancouver. So when you think of the largest cities in Canada, it would be Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Montreal. So CTV Vancouver's huge. Like, this was on their website, aired on the news that evening. Absolutely insane that this person had posted. I did not expect to be researching a YouTuber who called Doug Ford a fat pig and Vladimir Zelensky a grifter as a result of Question Period today. But here we are. And when I came across this post, this is a journalist, like, in the description of Penny's X account, wrote the article on CTV, literally says written by Penny, right? I literally said, you can ask me anything. I'm an open book. So kind of weird that you're going to identify yourself as a journalist, but not reach out to the other side of the story, especially when the other side of the story literally pops right on your feed, like right there, like knocks on your door. Hello, hi, that's me. You want to ask me anything? And doesn't do her their due diligence. I want to be careful with that one. So I found that a little bit disingenuous, but of course it's CTV. So if the shoe fits, right?
Well, I mean, of course, because most journalists are not actual journalists, they're political activists. And you can tell even by her reaction, like, how dare someone call Doug Ford a fat pig or Vladimir Zelensky a grifter? Like, as if those are like really extreme views. Like, I think most people in Ontario don't really like Doug Ford that much. They might not use that term to describe him. But like we said, you're a colorful guy. And Vladimir Zelensky, I've called him a grifter many times as well. Like, that's kind of the consensus view among most conservatives in Canada at this point. So it's not like your views are even that outside the box, whereas she's kind of presenting you as if you're like some very extremist person. And it's so unfortunate that she wouldn't even reach out to you. Like, when you're covering someone, like probably the first thing you learn in journalism school is get both sides, right? Reach out. If you're going to talk about somebody, you have to at least reach out to them for comment, even just to avoid a libel lawsuit. It's good practice to reach out and say, hey, I'm writing about you. Would you like to comment? And you're presenting yourself to this journalist. And I'm guessing that she didn't bother to interview you or ask you for comment for this question, for this article.
Not at all. And they wouldn't know this because they never reached out. But those hit pieces that they done, because it was on CTV Vancouver, it was in the news, right? I was presented in Parliament in the Castle as Prince George resident. This actually turned into something that it was even worse. On a local subreddit of Prince George, there was even some death threats towards me and my family that have since been removed from the moderation of that subreddit. But this is what happens if you're going to call yourself a journalist and work for a CTV, like a mainstream media, you should be doing both sides of the story. Me and my family don't deserve death threats because I literally attended question period. That's insane.
Oh, that's awful. That's so unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that, Jasper. And make sure that you protect you and your family. There are some crazy people on the political left, as we know, violent people. And again, yeah, like CTV to put out a piece on this, shame on them. The headline here: outcry after BC Conservatives invite pro-Trump YouTuber into the legislature. I don't know if you're pro-Trump or not, but you made it pretty clear that it wasn't like the BC Conservatives invited you. It seems like someone. It sort of said you could go. I don't know if you got like an official invitation from the party, but really this is like typical media trying to do cancel culture, saying guilt by association. This guy once said something that I don't agree with on his YouTube page, so we're going to smear the entire political party and we're going to smear him and put his kids in danger as well. It's so disgusting, and it's so unfortunate that he had to go through that.
Yeah, we should be shutting off the power to CTV. There you go.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining us, Jasper.
Thank you.